Tonight on the Richland Report, is this the longest winter Central Illinois has ever experienced? A Richland club is helping orphans in Africa. And a night to remember and more at the Children's Museum of Illinois. All coming up next. Good evening and welcome to the Richland Report. I'm Tyler Robinson. Tonight we'll take a look at Richland's Hope Club and what's happening at the Children's Museum. But first, does it feel like the longest winter in Central Illinois? With spring just a couple of weeks away, people seem more than ready to say goodbye to the winter of 2014. Tori Agar reports.
Treacherous.
Unpleasant.
It's cold and dark.
These are some of the words used to describe our weather here in Decatur. This winter is near the top for historic low temperatures and snowfall. However, what most of us feel is that this winter has been extremely long. It didn't help that the groundhog didn't see his shadow this year. We usually start seeing warmer temperatures creeping in, but this year we're still bundling up. This is starting to affect the everyday lives of some Richland students.
Had some close collisions a couple times in my car. A few times, so pretty rough.
This winter may feel colder, longer, and snowier for a couple of reasons. One reason is that the last two winters were warmer than usual, making this one, in contrast, feel much colder. The other is the polar vortex, which usually covers the Arctic, has dipped down on North America, bringing our temperatures down. What that means is that it is just nasty outside.
Well, I usually like winter, but because it snowed so much and I have to snowplow, kind of hate it. Overall, I want it to end.
Meteorological spring started March 1st, and the official spring season starts March 20th of this year. Even though the calendar says spring is right around the corner, it feels like it's taking its own sweet time getting here. I'm Tori Agar for the Richland Report.
Thanks, Tori. With us now is Joe Bauer from the Illinois Department of Natural Resources and a former meteorologist for WAND. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So first off, why does it feel like this winter is so much longer than last year's?
Because last year's winter was barely a winter. We had a very warm year last year. We had very little snow last year, and the big bonanza end to winter was the huge snowfall that we had the last weekend of the month. Other than that, there wasn't much to speak of. We had up to the end of February, only 3.5 inches of snow had fallen for the entire season. This year we're already at almost 37 inches. There's more on the way before it's said and done. Winter isn't over yet, and it feels longer because compared to last year, it most certainly is longer.
Oh, okay. So then what do you think the reason is that we're getting the colder temperatures?
It's how things work. When we talk about what an average winter is, you have to understand when you're dealing with averages, the average is the mean of the extremes. So last year was a very warm winter. This year's been a very cold winter. You put those two winters together, and we've had 3 normal winters in a row. You have to have the cold winters, you have to have the warm winters just to make things, get it all settled down to figure out what the middle of the road is and what winter is supposed to be. So this has been a tough one, but they come, they go. Next year may be warm, it may be colder, who knows?
So along the lines of average, would you say that this is a normal amount of snow?
No, we are well, actually Decatur right now they are the 3rd snowiest winter that they've ever had. We normally get around 18 inches. As of the end of February, we have 36.9 inches, so we are well above. We've doubled our average snowfall at this point, and like I said, we're not done. We have plenty of snow still to go before this is over with. So if you think that, gosh, it seems like it's just snowing all the time, this year it is.
So the big political hot button is, does this have anything to do with climate change?
There are 1,000 different opinions. If I throw mine into that ring, there will be 1,001. We have had a very cold winter in the central United States, but when you average that out, when one portion of the country is getting slapped by cold, the other one is getting slapped by warmth. The West Coast this year has had a very warm winter, a very dry winter. They are in the grips of a horrible drought right now. So everything that goes on here affects us. It's affecting them quite a bit as well. And the reason that we're so cold is because they're so warm. The way the jet stream sets up, it keeps them warm, brings all the cold air down on top of us. So as far as, does this have anything to do with global warming? In my opinion, no. This is just just one of those winters. We used to have winters like this once every 4 years. Now it's been about 15 or 16 years since we've had a winter that's been this cold and this long, and people will throw up climate change, people will throw up global warming. We can go back 20 years and use the words El Nino or greenhouse, and none of them mean anything. All it is that this year, this is a cold winter. The big buzzword for this year has been the polar vortex. I have been in meteorology since 1984. The first time I'd ever heard the media use the words polar vortex was this year, and now it's the big hot button word that everybody's loving to use. It's cold. It's the northern hemisphere. It's winter. We have cold outbreaks like this sometimes. This one has stuck around for a lot longer than we normally see, but that's what happens sometimes.
So then are you saying that polar vortex is more of a buzzword that it's kind of made up to describe natural occurrences?
It's not, it is a natural occurrence, just like El Nino is a natural occurrence. Numerous years ago, they were blaming the entire world's problems on El Nino until they listened to the scientists and found out that El Nino has been a naturally occurring event since the beginning of time. There is such a thing as a polar vortex. It's a large pool of cold air that sits over the North Pole, and this year it has kind of slipped down on top of us and sat here for a while. But it seems whenever something out of the ordinary happens, and this is out of the ordinary, but this is not catastrophic by any means. When something out of the ordinary happens, the media likes to whip it up, give it a name, give it a title, and then we can all hang our hat on that and say, oh, it's the nasty polar vortex has been causing this problem this entire time. It's always been there. It slipped a little bit. Now we're enjoying some of it. Hope it goes back north soon.
Right. So what are some of the ramifications that we might experience this spring and summer?
That's the very odd thing about the way the weather pattern is set up is you cannot judge spring at all by anything of what has happened during the winter. Last year's a prime example. We had a very warm winter, and then all of a sudden March and April, once we got into spring, it went very cold and very wet. Warm, dry winter, cold, wet spring. You would think that it would follow into that path like it did the year before, the horrible drought of 2012. Things dried out very quickly. It was a warm winter. It stayed warm, and then we just went dry into the middle part of the year. So what happens during the winter months doesn't really tell the tale of what's going to happen in the spring. If it did, it would be great. I'd get into the corn and soybean commodities market and make $1 gajillion and we'd be all set. But the processes, they just don't work that way. There's no real good clue for what's going to happen this spring because of what's happening this winter.
Okay, a lot of what I hear from friends and people on the street is that some of the corporations around with stuff that's being put into the air create a bubble of precipitation, which is a theory of why we've had such a not warm, but such a dry summer. Is there any truth to that, do you think? And
no, and there's ongoing research with those kinds of things, but when you heat the air, it's bad science to say it this way, but when you heat the air, the warmer the air gets, the more moisture that the air is able to hold. And that is one of their big rallying cries for global warming, climate change, whatever you want to call it, is if the Earth continues to get warmer and we will see the poles melting and we will have more water available, the warmer air can hold more water. We expect catastrophic floods instead of having all of this drought. So pick the one you like the best.
So it's not just a big elaborate promotion stunt for Disney to promote Frozen?
No, not at all.
Well, that's good news. So how many times have you seen the movie Groundhog Day?
I love the movie Groundhog Day. I do not like Groundhog Day. The groundhog is a rodent, folks. He's not going to tell you how much more winter there's going to be. I hear they're tasty, but that's all I know about groundhogs.
Well, Joe Bauer, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
When we come back, we'll find out how an African orphanage is being helped by a professor and students at Richland Community College.
Decisions about college can be overwhelming, so why not attend Richland Icon, Richland Community College's new information convention, for help? You'll learn about everything you need to know about attending college at Richland, how to apply, financial aid and scholarships, programs and classes, and best of all, you'll get to interact with faculty and advisors while they answer any questions you might have. We know that's a lot to take in, so come experience Icon on Thursday, March 27th from 5 to 7 p.m. in the Schilling Center. You could earn your chance to win a free tablet in time for summer or fall classes.
Welcome back. How do students here in Decatur make a difference halfway across the world? Well, thanks to Richland Community College's Professor Pixie Fennessy, a Kenyan orphanage is able to raise money right here in Decatur. Angela Thunder has the story.
College club fundraisers are a common sight during the year here at Richland Community College. Usually it's a bake sale with the money that goes towards school equipment, trips, or local charities. However, one group on campus raises money for a charity half a world away. The Hope Club holds at least 2 fundraisers a year here at Richland for the Saving Grace Orphanage. What's interesting about the sale is what the club is selling. The items sold are made by orphans themselves at the orphanage. Figures made from stone and carved out of wood to jewelry such as bracelets, necklaces, and earrings. Kaylin Bellin, the Hope Club's president, explains how items get from the orphanage to Decatur.
Good portion of them will actually go back to the orphanage that Pixie goes over to in Kenya, seeing as all of this merchandise came from there. I would like to see a good portion of the proceeds to go back to them.
The fundraiser does a couple things. It brings in money to help with the running of the orphanage, and it gives Richland students an opportunity to get involved with a cause that saves lives. Shannon Lyons, the Hope Club secretary, believes the fundraiser gives students a new perspective.
Well, I love helping out Hope. I think it's a great club, and we do a lot for the children in Kenya, and we just give back to the community and other places around the world that need help, and it's just really fulfilling.
The Saving Grace Orphanage fundraiser also creates awareness for Richland students, getting them to think more globally about the impact they can make. From a student's point of view, it's a good thing.
I think it's a wonderful idea. I think that it's a good idea that they're helping out people in Africa and all the proceeds go there. I think more people should do it more often.
All the money made from the fundraiser goes to the Saving Grace Orphanage. The Hope Club's goal is to sell every item Professor Fennessy brings back from Africa. Hopefully, these items will create a connection from Decatur to the children half a world away. I'm Angela Thunder for the Richland Report.
Thanks, Angela. And joining us now is Professor Pixie Fennessy, advisor to the Richland Hope Club. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
So why did you decide to start the Hope Club?
Well, Hope Club was started when a part-time advisor from Richland and I took a group of students to Kenya to work at an orphanage called By Grace Disabled Orphan Center in one of the slums outside of Nairobi. And they didn't have hardly any food. The kids sleep on mats at night in the same rooms where they have classes during the day. Didn't have any running water, still don't. And so we decided that we would start Hope Club, helping out people everywhere, and start some humanitarian projects, and that our major international project then would be to send money to the orphanage for food and water.
Oh, okay. So what inspired you to travel to Africa in the first place?
It was actually the advisor that was working here had gotten a Department of Health grant for HIV awareness and education, and he had some students that were involved with that, and the students said, hey, we want to go to Africa and do something for people who are victims of AIDS. And so he looked it up, did some computer searches, and found this orphanage that was asking for volunteers.